Hello, ladies and gentlemen, 'tis I, Michael A. Grimm, aka the Multi-Voice. I have many voices, but one opinion, and today, for today's Multi-Voice review, I mean, since the 60th anniversary came out yesterday, and everybody's all, pumped up to see the 60th anniversary, seeing David Tennant back again as the Doctor. So, therefore, I decided to do something which I was planning on doing this way back then, and of course, I know some of you would tell me about my other Doctor Who review, Doctor Who the 50th Anniversary, which I'm really proud of making that review, although in that review, I pretty much scratched the surface, and I talked more about the Doctor and the rest of the characters and most of the things they dealt with. But I didn't talk about the companions or anything, and I just talk about Clara Oswin and of course Rose Tyler, which Billie Piper didn't play Rose Tyler in the 50th anniversary, but played the bad wolf girl. And of course talk about the premise and the story. But enough about that one. I decided, since Tubi here decided to show the classic series of Doctor Who, which I've been planning on trying to do. I had a hard time trying to watch all the other classic Doctor Who series until Tubi was nice enough to show the classics. And I am very happy because I'm in America and I would get iPlayer, but sadly it's not available in America. So that sucks. So, since I've been watching the show series so far, and I decided to start out this one, which I like to call Doctor Who-athon. And I'm going to start out back in the very first series, back in 1963, the Hartnell era. Now, let's get started, shall we, ladies and gentlemen? It all started by two school teachers. One named Ian Chesterton, played by William Russell, who is talking to another teacher, Barbara Wright, played by Jacqueline Hill. They both start talking about their new student, who goes by the name of Susan Foreman, played by Carolyn Ann Ford. And they followed her into a junkyard and saw her got into the wooden phone box. And as they got into the phone box, it turns out it was a TARDIS, and Susan is an alien, and so is her grandfather, the Doctor, played by William Hartnell. Now, at first they thought he was crazy, and he thought he was filling Susan up with some lies and whatnot, but it turns out he was right all along. And that's when the first episode started, from The Unearthly Child. And, now, bear in mind, this was the first time I see the William Hartnell series. My thoughts about William Hartnell as the Doctor is that, compared to the Doctors I've seen today, I always find the Doctor to be heroic, caring, dynamic, always puts himself in the front line and protect others. But William Hartnell, on the other hand, his Doctor, he acted like a grumpy, mean, grouchy old fart who he lies to his two companions, Ian and Barbara, and even made up a lie that his TARDIS needed something for it to keep going, and they just went out and explored, and it turns out he lied because he didn't need anything. He even puts his granddaughter in danger as well. But here's one thing that really got me the most. There was an episode called The Daleks. Now here's one thing I want you to know. The premise and the story and the situation is a lot like that colorized movie I've seen. I mean, my grandma had this movie on VHS, and that was my first experience with Doctor Who, but it wasn't the same Doctor Who that I know from the series. I mean, the premise in the episode The Dalek is a lot like Doctor Who and the Dalek, starring Peter Cushing as Doctor Who. Except the difference between Doctor Who and the Daleks and the Dalek episode and Doctor Who, Peter Cushing is playing... He's not playing the Doctor, he's playing Doctor who is a human and not an alien. And he invented the TARDIS. And, of course, his version of the TARDIS, it doesn't look like exactly like the show where there's a console in the middle. The one from the TV movie looked like an engine room. And, of course, they had to add that he had not only his granddaughter, who is a little girl, but also his daughter and a date. I mean, even though they changed some of the characters and changed the background on Doctor Who, but the story involving the Daleks was pretty much a lot like the movie. So, some people would ask me which one came first. Well, the William Hartnell was. William Hartnell came out first before Peter Cushing's Doctor Who. And then there was another episode that's pretty much is a lot like the movie version as well, is of course Dalek Invasion of Earth, where the Doctor, Susan, and the others, they went into the future and the Daleks took over Earth and started enslaving some of the people, which that is the same premise from the movie version with Peter Cushing, Dalek Invasion of Earth. But sadly, the difference between the movie and, of course, in this episode, this is when the Doctor decided to leave Susan behind because she fell in love with a guy in the future. And I remember him saying this to Susan, "I will come back. Yes, I will come back." But the question is, when the hell is he going to come back? When? But of course, one thing it did boggle me, though, is that they went to the other episode called The Aztecs. It was during the time when where Doctor Who was sort of combining, I mean, they're trying to make up their mind if they're going to make it into an educational time-traveling show or a science fiction series. But I think that the science fiction series won over that. But when they did the episode of the Aztecs, that's when the Doctor and Barbara and Ian get involved with the Aztecs and trying to put a stop to the human sacrifices. And of course, this is the first time that the Doctor got himself into a sort of a marriage relationship with an Aztec girl goes by the name of Kimisi, played by Megan Von D. Brawl. And then on the second season, that's when the show got a little better. It started to speed up a bit because the first series, I mean, the pacing was pretty slow. I mean, most of the time I had to fast forward some of the episodes because it was getting so freaking boring. So I had to, speed up the process and get to the story. But, of course, in this episode called The Rescue, now that's when the Doctor let go of Susan, but he still feels a little broken up on letting Susan go. So, this new girl shows up, who goes by the name of Vicky, played by Maureen O'Brien. I think it's pronounced Maureen, Maureen. Sometimes I have a hard time trying to pronounce names, okay? But anyway, now Vicky was there to help replace Susan because she's a young girl and the Doctor feels kind of breaking up for letting Susan go. So she's trying to fill in the void that the Doctor had. And then, when they did the episode called The Chase, that's when the Doctor decided to let go of those two teachers, Ian and Barbara. So, gave them a chance to let them go. And they were really happy that they pretty much showed up in the exact same time when they first left. And they thanked the Doctor for that. And then throughout the adventures, being with Vicky, all of a sudden they found another companion to help fill in Ian and Barbara, which is Steven Tyler, played by Peter Purves. Peter Purves. Some name, huh? Now, Peter Purves, I mean, he's from the same century as Vicky, and of course, their friendship is a lot like brother and sister in a way, because Steven kind of thinks of Vicky as a little sister to him. And then all of a sudden, I found this one episode. Now, this one kind of surprised me because I have heard that there was a lot of episodes that ended up missing and was never been found, but some of the people have found the audio of it, so they had a unique way of animating them. Since they couldn't find the video, they found the sound, so they animated the episode. You know what? I'm really impressed that they did that, because that is one thing I would love to do. I would love to take my audio dramas and animate them so people can see my vision on the audios I created. I mean, that is the neatest thing in the world, but of course the problem is I don't know anything about animation, so I'd rather meet somebody who would help me, teach me how to do animation so I can animate my audio. So now my series would be no longer audios, but be animated. It can happen. But anyway, there was this one animated episode in the third season called Galaxy 4. And then it was really pretty cool that they animated the whole thing. And I mean, I know that some of the episodes, I mean, the live action one, I mean, I bet some of the aliens were kind of cheesy, lame effects, but it was in the 60s. I mean, they didn't develop better special effects until today. So they had to work on a certain budget. But when they animated the episode, I mean, they can make it really awesome. And surprisingly, there was an episode that was missing where Vicky leaves the Doctor. Vicky decided to go and leave the Doctor. So, a new girl shows up who goes by the name of Dorothy Dodo Chaplin. Dodo? Played by the lovely Jacqueline Lane. Now, Dodo, she's a very excitable girl. I mean, she really loves helping out the Doctor. She pretty much filled in the shoes for William Hartnell Doctor. And then there was a missing episode where it turned out that Steven Tyler decided to leave as well. And then there was this other episode where Dodo, the episode was called The War Machines. And that's when they introduce two more companions, which it is Polly Wright, played by Annick Wilkes. And of course, Ben Jackson, played by Michael Craze. Now, Polly and Ben, they were pretty good companions along the way. And of course, after the whole deal with the War Machine, that's when Dodo, she left the show, so Polly and Ben decided to say farewell to William Hartnell by going into the TARDIS, and turns out that it's a time machine and spaceship, and they accidentally joined with William Hartnell in their adventures. Now, one thing you should say about the TARDIS, the blue box here, it looks like a phone box, but it's called the TARDIS because there are initials that Susan made up: time and relative dimension in space. TERDIS. TARDIS. And it's intermittently transcendental, means it's bigger on the inside. So every time when people go into the TARDIS, they're like, it's bigger on the inside. And it's both a time machine. I mean, one thing about the TARDIS is this: it's like the Batcave, the Enterprise, and the DeLorean all in one. So beat that, iconic heroes who had those. And of course, it was way better than that time-traveling phone box in Bill and Ted Excellent Adventure. Bogus! And then in 1966, this is when William Hartnell's health was getting kind of not very well. I mean, his health was kind of not doing too well, and it was time for him to leave the show. And that's when the show started that whole regeneration thing on Doctor Who, which was a quick gimmick, but it worked pretty well, and that's when they start using throughout the rest of the show. Where William Hartnell's doctor, he collapsed and then regenerated into the second Doctor, which is Patrick Troughton, who becomes the second Doctor. And this is where I'm going to end this review for the day, because this is the William Hartnell era. So stay tuned for next week, for the Troughton era. Oh yeah, and for those of you who are wondering how the whole thing started in the first place, how the whole Doctor Who stuff started, you should look up this Doctor Who special they made called An Adventure in Time and Space, starring David Bradley as William Hartnell. I mean, David Bradley, he played William Hartnell Doctor for that movie, and after that they start using him playing the first Doctor in the later series all of a sudden. Well, anyway, enough with now. That's it for the Hartnell, and let's get to the Troughton next week. So for those of you who likes this review so far on the William Hartnell version of Doctor Who, please leave a comment down below, hit like and subscribe for more, and oh, that's right, I don't have a sonic screwdriver because it's in my damn storage. See you guys next time. I'm the Multi-Voice Reviewer. I remember it so I can jog your memory. Or maybe in my Doctor Who world, I'm the Multi-Voice Doctor.